I remember the story really well because it was all over the news and they made a movie about it. Um, and the movie is well worth the watch if you're into it. Um, Back in 2010, when the Deepwater Horizon disaster happened, oil from that particular disaster still continues to spread in disturbing ways. An estimated 4.9 million barrels of oil gushed out into the Gulf of Mexico during the Deepwater Horizon BP oil spill of 2010. New research chronicles the fate of the oil that wasn't cleaned up. The Deepwater Horizon platform was stationed at the BP operated Macondo prospect in the Gulf of Mexico when disaster struck. On April 20th of 2010, um, a wellhead blowout caused the drilling rig to explode and catch fire, resulting in deaths of 11 workers and leaving 17 injured. The platform, located 40 miles, also 64 kilometers from the Louisiana coast, sank 2 days later, and it fell 5,000 feet, which is 1,500 meters to the ocean floor. Crews managed to seal the well on August 4th of 2010, but not before 4.9 million barrels of crude oil poured out, creating the largest oil spill disaster in history. The leak oil spread far and wide, affecting the marine life at depth, and this would include dolphins, birds, turtles, and even microorganisms. Massive cleanup and containment measures were implemented. Some 47,000 people got involved at the peak, but copious amounts of oil still managed to escape and pollute the surrounding areas. Scientists are still seeking to understand the full extent of this disaster, along with the ultimate fate of the oil that couldn't be cleaned up. An overview published this past March in the science journal Oceanography shed new light on this ongoing story and the various biogeochemical processes that affected the escaped oil. Marine Marine geochemist John Fearington from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution had co-authored the overview. The findings were based on a recent geochemical study, work supported by the U.S. Natural Resource Damage Assessment, and data provided by BP and government agencies, which included the National Science Foundation. The Gulf of Mexico Research Initiative, which has been instrumental in documenting the spill's impacts in the region, had funded the project. As Farrington and his colleagues learned, a significant portion of the unrecovered oil made its way to the surface where it became exposed to sunlight, a process called photooxidation changed the oil's chemistry, transforming it into all sorts of unsavory compounds, some of which managed to become airborne. Photooxidation, as the scientists wrote, was a significant process acting on the surface oil slick every time very early in the spill, and it played a significant role in the fate of the spilled oil. Frustratingly, photooxidation had been downplayed for decades, despite earlier research done back in the 70s and 80s, suggesting that it would be an important research topic. The team added, as to the exact quantity of oil affected by this process, that's still a mystery. As is well known, a considerable amount of oil reached the shore. Research from 2013 estimated that 1,102 miles of beaches and coastal marshes from Florida to Texas were affected by this spill. A valiant attempt was made to clean it up, but a lot of oil was pushed into coastal marshes by the tides, and today the wetlands along the Gulf Coast shoreline still bear the mark of the disaster, as residue is found in these locations, and the bare chemical signatures consist with oil from the disaster, as the oceanography paper points out. A lawsuit also claims that dispersants used to clean up the spill created their own environmental justice crisis. Natural marine snow also came into contact with the spilled oil. Marine snow is falling bits of matter, including shit and decaying bits of sea creatures and plants, but in this case the scientists had to describe it as marine oil snow, the accumulation of which led to marine oil snow sedimentation on the seafloor. This unholy mixture spread into the food webs of water column ecosystems. The scientists wrote many deep sea animals are now feeding on this shit, including corals, squid, fish, and sharks. Humans could also be ingesting some of this oil by consuming the seafood sourced from the affected regions. The research published last year shows that the so-called invisible oil means that the spill extended to regions as far away as Texas and the East East Florida shelf. Oil that didn't oil that it, oil that didn't undergo any of these aforementioned processes settled onto the seafloor where it continues to linger. Eventually, this residue will be broken down by microbes. In terms of future research, the scientists had said a deeper understanding of photooxidation and marine oil snow is needed, in addition to an improved understanding of how oil spills affect the ecosystems. And they also advocated for new and better ways of cleaning up oil spills and new methods to track oil spills over time. And because sadly things like this keep happening in the Gulf and around the world. Yep.